And welcome to the final yard here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network on YouTube. I am your host for today, Louis Song, and I'm joined by Hussam Patel, who is making his 5 Reasons Sports debut, and good old Alfredo Arteaga. You know him, you love him, and he is back from vacation. How are you, gentlemen?
Great.
All right, awesome. And Hussam is currently muted. I assume something's going on in the background, so I'm hoping everything is wonderful on his end. So before we get too far into this, I'm just going to go ahead and bring up a big thank you to our sponsor, that is Thrive Fantasy. So if you're someone like me and is just desperately trying to get into the whole fantasy football world, it's not exactly very easy if you haven't spent years upon years doing research and stuff like that. That is where Thrive Fantasy comes into play. So what does Thrive Fantasy do? They allow you to focus on mainly the top different players out there. So all you have to do is just go ahead and choose 3, 4, 5, 6 more players to get yourself going on there. And you can just go ahead and each prop is assigned a fantasy value for the over and the under on how likely it is to hit. Thrive has over 140,000 guaranteed in prizes up for grabs just in week 1 of the NFL season coming up. And overall, they've awarded over $4 million in prize money already. Thrive's featured contest has guaranteed over $100,000, and it's only $20 to enter. First place winner takes $20K. So even if you don't win the most points out of everybody, you still have a good shot at least getting home some of that. So all you have to do is you can go into the link in the description below, or you can use the promo code 5fins at thrivefantasy.com. You can download the app. You can go through your browser. Go ahead and get started and prop up today. So now, with all that said and done, we're just going to get right into it. The Miami Dolphins have defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 29-26 on what can only be described as a miraculous play by none other than our third-string quarterback, Reed Sinnett, who, for all intents and purposes, it looked like the game was going to end on about the worst way possible. And it turns out that did not happen because, oh my God, he pulled the Fitzmagic, pulled something out of nothing, heaved it down the field to Chris Myarick, and somehow, I guess it's because he's just the tallest guy in the field. What is that? Chris Myarick, like 6'7", something along those lines. He leaps up, catches it, comes down with it, and it was just an awesome way to end the preseason. It at least gave some excitement to end it all. So now that's just the instant reaction of it all, and we'll get into the more specifics of certain players later on. But Alfredo, since you are back from your vacation and you got to see at least most of the game, I believe, what are your initial thoughts on this preseason game and maybe the preseason in general?
I was thoroughly entertained today. Like that was entertaining stuff. But I got the sense that the guys that played today are the guys that are probably on the roster bubble and probably are the guys that the cut list is going to come from on Tuesday. I believe it's the 31st, right? So
yes.
Yeah, it's on Tuesday at 4:00. So I think that the guys that played today, that makes up the pool of where they're going to get all the cuts from. As far as what I feel like, about this preseason, it was everything we expected, right? It was Tua being sharp. It was an offense that looked explosive, powerful. Some guys emerged as real contributors like Savon Ahmed. So, and Matt Collins is making a very strong wide receiver group even stronger because he had a great camp. It's the return of Albert Wilson. A lot of good things came out of this camp and this preseason. So you can't help but be excited for the season.
No, for sure. And this is exactly what I was saying when I wrote my article about the fact that there's more depth on this team that they have had in a very long time. Like, the only thing that you can really look at and say they don't have a lot of depth is the offensive line, but that seems to be like an ongoing issue for the past decade and a half. They never have depth because they never even have starters. So aside from that, though, it seems like everything seems to be taken care of. Brian Flores, I do not envy his job because what he has coming up on Tuesday is going to be painful because he's going to have to try to sort out all this talent at linebacker, at corner, at safety, at wide receiver especially, Alfredo. This is going to be very difficult for him because you obviously have the first 5 guys are all but guaranteed at this point. You have Will Fuller, Devontae Parker, Albert Wilson, and then you're going to have who are the next guys? Let's see, because you got to go down.
You missed Jalen Waddle.
Jalen Waddle, yes.
Matt Collins is an absolute lock.
Matt Collins is making this roster, yes, and
then the rest of the guys I think are like guys that they might trade. Like they try to find trade partners for all of these guys. You're not gonna get too much because I don't think look, they have several guys that you can't sneak onto a practice squad. Preston Williams will be the first team on the waiver list will pick him up, so you can't sneak him on. And you can't. I don't believe you can protect him because I think he played 15 games. I'm not sure how that works, but Preston Williams is probably a trade candidate. I would say that. But other than that, I think the wide receiver core is pretty much set in stone. Maybe one guy that you don't expect to get cut will get cut.
And who would you pick that someone to be then?
I think Jakeem Grant is in some danger and Malcolm Perry is in some danger. Like, they're not out of the woods. If I had to bet, I say Jakeem makes the team. I think Malcolm Perry does not.
I think you just revoked your extra yard membership, Alf. You're not allowed to say Jakeem Grant does anything, right? He's supposed to be 19, remember?
Well, I guess those guys don't like, kickoff returns and punt returns for touchdowns, you do get 6 points for those. So
I know. I've had the argument back and forth with them for a long time. I honestly, I think that if you tried to stash Malcolm Perry on the practice squad, that would be fine. I don't know. Maybe he gets picked up by Bill Belichick. That seems like the kind of guy he would want to pick up. But if he manages to get onto the practice squad, I'm pretty sure he would be protected because even if it is the whole only 15 games, he didn't play 15 games last season for the Dolphins, so he would be eligible for protection. Now, as far as Preston Williams goes, I guess you could try to get some kind of trade value. He only played like 5 or so snaps, it feels like. He wasn't even in the game for most of the time. Like, he had one target that I can remember. Reed Sinnett overthrew him. And then that was it. That was the last that I saw him all game long. So that was done. Most of it was just Kai Loxley, Khalil McLean, and we did see a lot of Malcolm Perry. So it was mostly those 3 guys playing wide receiver for the whole game. Tight end, I have been raving about Hunter Long this whole time in training camp and in preseason, how smooth he is, how fluid it is when he's catching the football. And that's why it broke my heart when I watched him drop a pass that landed right in the breadbasket and it just went bloop onto the floor. I couldn't believe what I was looking at.
No, he doesn't drop many, but he did drop that one. Nice corner route, great throw by Reed Sinnett. And, Hunter Long I don't know, he just dropped it because he tracked it fine. He got his hands up, perfectly. Got his hands on the ball and then just dropped it. So, it happens to everybody. But, he's not in no danger. He's not getting cut. So,
I know. I don't think he's in danger of being cut. This is just more along the lines of just, man, he was perfect pretty much this whole time, and then no longer perfect. Hussam,
just a rookie mistake.
I know it was a rookie mistake, but that was the first rookie mistake he made, and it was just like a perfect thing. It wasn't like, oops, he hit the wrong route or something. It was just, boop. That's the kind of pass that if Jakeem Grant had dropped it, we would be screaming at the top of our lungs in rage to see him not only not on the Dolphins, but never play in the NFL again. That's the kind of mistake that was. So, Hussam, I'm going to go ahead and get your thoughts now. What were your thoughts on this game and what you took away from it?
Well, first of all, I'm going to be here making my first rookie mistake, saying that Jakeem Grant is going to make the roster as well. Now, if he's a trade candidate.
And now you are officially off of the extra yard, too.
I know. And Alf's not very fond of me yet. He's not very fond of me yet. He knows why. I know why, too. But, yeah, I see it that way from what I saw today. I mean, the first couple of drives looked really good against the Bengals ones. Jared Dokes, I mean, he looks like a guy that can start, third downs, be that pass protector, be that goal line guy. He can get those touchdowns. He can catch out of the backfield. And, I mean, at Cincinnati, he was one of the best pass blockers on the team and in the American Conference as well. So I hope Jared Dokes makes the team as well. I'm of the opinion that Malcolm Brown was brought on, to be that goal line back, but Jared Dokes looks to be a little bit ahead of him. Malcolm Brown is there to teach. I I was talking with somebody today, saying that, it wouldn't be crazy if the Dolphins could possibly, cut or trade Malcolm Brown he could possibly go back to the Rams. He could go to somewhere else, another running back needy team. I just don't see how Malcolm Brown fits this running back room. I see Patrick Laird there.
We guaranteed his whole contract, so I sincerely doubt that Brown is going anywhere this year. So
okay. That makes sense then. Then that makes sense. I don't know about the contract details. As for quarterback, I think Reid Sinet is going to make a push with Flores after this game. I mean, he had 340 something yards.
He made an awesome campaign for himself for some other team to claim him. Jacoby Brissett is not going anywhere. And honestly, I wouldn't
him on the practice squad, but
if he makes it, but I would not want as much as I loved watching it. This was against third and fourth stringers, because again, this is something you have to keep in mind when we're watching this game. It's not like we were playing starters here. Even Jacoby Brissett plays at least one or two starters left. This was, again, the roster fringe players who are also fighting for their jobs. So we have to take that into consideration. It was fun to watch. Don't get me wrong. It was awesome to watch Reid Sinet do what he did. 343 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was an awesome, awesome performance by him. But I'm picking Jacoby Brissett as my backup every day of the week and twice on Sunday. But as for Jared Dokes, the dude looked like let me put it this way. If he makes the roster, I would not be upset if Malcolm Brown gets paid $1.75 million guaranteed to just ride the bench. That's kind of how I am right now with Jared Dokes, just from watching the anger that he ran with, the effort that he put forth. That's something I haven't seen a lot in our recent power backs. With Jordan Howard was supposed to be the power back, but he ran like he had a piano on his back. So it's not seeing Jared Dokes push through the line, get some extra yards that way. That was a very refreshing thing. I think that he's going to get the nod over Patrick Laird as the fourth running back. And I'm honestly very good with that. Alfredo, what do you think about Jared Dokes versus Patrick Laird?
Well, the problem with Jared Dokes is that, he seems to be a gamer, because he seems to play okay when he's in uniform and they're actually playing the game. But he's had a rough camp, in my opinion. It started with dropping passes. It ended with dropping passes. The last practice I went to was Wednesday. I went on Wednesday, and he dropped 2 passes in 11v11. And they were just safety valves. There were flat passes, arrow routes, simple stuff. Like, you're supposed to catch those. Those catches are not contested. Nobody's within 5 yards of you. You got to catch those. He dropped them. So he's had a problem with dropping footballs all camp. So, maybe they take that into consideration. I think Jared Dokes is a guy that you can pass through waivers. He was a 7th round pick. And, we may like what he's done here recently, but the rest of the NFL might not want to take a flyer on him. So if he could possibly pass waivers, and that's a guy that you could put on your practice squad.
So, but GM Alfredo, would he pick Patrick Laird or Jared Dokes as the fourth running back?
Well, the thing is that we've seen Patrick Laird do it, right? And
we've seen Patrick Laird catch passes. If I'm picking him for his running, I'm picking Jared Dokes. If I'm picking him for his pass catching, I'm picking Laird.
Well, we're talking about RB4, right? So if it's RB4, personally, I would want Malcolm Perry to be RB4.
I would too, but I don't think they see him that way.
And I would cut. Well, what's odd about that is that the first 2 days in camp last year, that's where he was playing. He was a running back. Then all of a sudden, he made the switch to wide receiver exclusively, and they've never tried him again. So, I'd like to see him work out at RB4. I don't know if it's going to happen. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So, who's going to make it as RB4? I'll make a prediction. He's not on the team yet.
Oh, you're saying they're going to go out? They're going to go out and find someone.
They'll claim somebody that gets cut. And that'll be the fourth running back on the team. And if not, I would bet on Patrick Laird, and they try to stash Jared Dokes. And give him a redshirt year, bring him back next year, have him compete for a top 3 spot, maybe possibly top 2 spot next year.
Well, yeah, because I don't imagine they bring back Malcolm Brown. Not if he continues to play, at least in games, if he continues to play the way he played today. Another name that we got to talk about, and honestly, I think it's because I feel obligated to bring this up because a lot of people have been telling me how much of a gamer he's been, and I have been on record saying that every time I hear his name in games, I just kind of shake my head and I'm just annoyed to hear him. It's Jamal Perry. Jamal Perry, I understand he did good in practice. Watching in training camp, he did awesome. But today, he looked like the Jamal Perry that when the regular season starts, I get annoyed every time I hear his name. He dropped the interception that went right to him. He got dragged along by this dude who looked like he's skinnier than I am. So I'm just not impressed by him. I don't see him making the roster at this junction.
I could possibly see him make the roster over a couple of these undrafted rookies as well, kind of like a Tino Ellis or maybe possibly a Trill Williams. Although I'm a big fan of Trill Williams. Jamal Perry has that experience that Brian Flores is looking for as a safety. You could have Jamal Perry there as a safety. You can cut Clayton Fedjedlum. Maybe Nate Holley doesn't make the roster either, and you have Perry there as that third safety and that special teams kind of guy.
Well, they're gonna keep 11, so I think he's gonna have a shot. You know, the guy that hasn't played well, and he's an NFL player. Like this is a guy that has played football before, and he's played it well. Crevion LeBlanc, I believe his name is.
Yes,
he's had a bad camp, and he's been bad in these preseason games. So I think that's a guy that probably got himself cut today.
Well, that was an experiment. Scrap, I believe his nickname is, from his old team. So other guys that, I don't think they're going to make it anyway. Javaris Davis, Tino Ellis.
Well, Javaris Davis, I think, is in a death struggle with Trill Williams. One of them has to go. If you start counting the DBs, you get to 9 pretty quick with guys that they're just locks. Like those are the 9. 9 will make the team. Then you start thinking about, are they going to keep 10 or 11? I think they might keep 11 because then they're going to need an 11th guy for. First of all, they might play 6 and 7 very often on third down, right? But then second of all, they're going to need at least 2 guys to be special team specialists. So that tells me that maybe Fedjedlum, I can't pronounce his name ever. Fedjedlum. There you go. Fedjedlum. All right. Clayton Fedjedlum, right? I think that's how he can find himself onto the team. Nate Holley, he has a reputation as a good special teams player. I just never seen it. So I don't know. It's tight. But I think that Javaris Davis, Trill Williams, that's one to watch. I think one goes, one stays.
If I could bet money on it, I would bet Trill Williams over Javaris Davis. Just because of Trill's size, his intellect, and his versatility.
Mm-hmm. He also has one thing going for him. He's played a ton of special team snaps in camp and in these preseason games, which means that they're looking at him saying, if he doesn't work out as a DB in our packages, he could play a lot of special teams. Yep. So he seems to have carved out a niche. He might have the inside track on Javaris Davis. Although I think Javaris Davis has played pretty good at boundary corner this preseason.
So now this brings up an interesting case here, and quite frankly, I've kind of reached the point where I really wish we could just like redshirt it. Noah Igbenogany. I have seen very, very little positive things from him. I have not seen him play well in practice. I have not seen him play well in the preseason. He's constantly getting beat. He's constantly 3 steps behind. Like, it looks like he's actually taken a step backward from where he was last season. And I don't know why that's the case, but he looks worse than he did in his rookie season. So I just feel like at this point, you can protect players, correct? Last I checked.
4.
You can protect 4. Okay. But they still have to clear waivers first.
I don't believe those have to clear waivers.
So if I'm the Dolphins, I am putting Noah Igbenogany on the protected practice squad because I don't trust him on the 53-man roster right now. not over the likes of other players who have done much better than him at this point.
Well, I think he's in a little bit of trouble as far as playing time, right? Because Nick Needham is now he's a boundary corner. He's not in the slot anymore. Justin Coleman has been really, really good for this team. It's a matter of, having a lot of, these are good problems to have. I was listening to somebody else saying, what are you going to do with this guy? He seemed like almost upset. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is what good teams deal with all the time. Too many good players, right? So this is a good thing that Justin Coleman and Nick Needham are pretty good. So, yeah, I think Noah Benogany has basically played himself onto the third team. So can he make it on special teams? Can he make it on special teams? I think you still want to have him on the sideline. You want to train him up for the year. It is too early still to just call him a bust.
Well, I'm not calling him a bust, but I'm not sure I want him on the 53 if I can protect him on the squad and just let somebody who's actually played well be another backup.
I think next year, the clock is ticking on him for sure next year, but not this year.
I think I agree with Alf. The clock is ticking with Igbenogany for next year. Look, he's just turned 21. It's his second season. He's a super young guy. Quarterback is one of the hardest positions to play in the NFL. You can ask anybody in the NFL that. You can ask any analyst that. Quarterback is one of the hardest positions to play in the NFL. I mean, thank God he's learning behind Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, Coach Alexander, and Brian Flores. If he's struggling, they know what he's struggling with, and they know what they need to work with him. Now, the thing is, I believe the reporting was that they tried to make Igbenogany work in the nickel. I didn't really like that because I didn't see Igbenogany's hips be that fluid to play nickel. Then you already have Nick Needham and Justin Coleman. With Nick Needham, he can play boundary, he can play nickel as well. So in those 6 DB situations, you can put Needham anywhere. You can put Byron and X on the outside. You can put Coleman inside as well as the 4th DB. Igbenogany, maybe I don't know where you would put Igbenogany, but as Lewis said, if you want to redshirt him, you can't. You would have to put him as, the depth. You could put him into some special sub packages, maybe, put him, take Byron Jones off or X off for maybe a play or two just to see how he's going early on into the season, to see how he's developing. But he needs to work a lot with his hands. His footwork is okay. His vision, he's a former receiver. He knows what his vision needs to be, but his hands, ultimately his hands are the problem because he does not make a play on the ball. He's there in the positions to win, but he doesn't use his hands to make a play on that ball.
It's also technique. Like his technique is usually off, and it's off in ways that it's usually not off for guys that have played cornerback 3 or 4 years in college and then 2 or 3 years in the NFL. Like, he actually looks like a guy that hasn't played cornerback too much, because he still does really dumb things as far as technique-wise. So, that's something that's worth waiting on, because, he is a fabulous athlete. So no matter what you may think of him as far as a player. Yeah. So, he's worth the red shirt. And then next year, pressure's on next year. Like, next year training camp starts. He has to get snaps. Like, he has to be a slot corner. He has to be a boundary corner. He has to do something on this team. He has to play some snaps. So, yeah, next year the pressure's on. But this year it's, he gets a pass.
Right, and don't misunderstand. I'm not saying it's time to give up on Noah Igbenogany. I was the one who wrote that we have to be patient with him. But what I'm saying is that if we have the option, thanks to the COVID extended rules, to basically put him on the practice squad and say nobody else is allowed to touch him, then I don't see why we don't just let him continue to practice and develop on our terms. And while the Dolphins are currently competing for playoffs and maybe even Super Bowl if Tua is better than we think he might be, then I don't want to throw Igbenogany into a situation where he's going to struggle and he gets picked on when we actually need the team to be good. That's why I'm saying you stick him on the squad and you pick somebody else who actually did perform, and you let him be the reserve corner at least until year 3 for Igbenogany.
It's going to depend on a special teams coach too. Danny Crossman is going to decide, is he useful or not on special teams? And if he says he is, he's going to be rostered.
Not as a returner, he's not.
Well, but there's other things that he can do on special teams. So he's played some on the punt team, on the punt return team. So maybe he has a chance. It's up to Danny Crossman. If Danny Crossman says, "Look, we need to roster this guy because I'm going to play him, and I'm going to play him here, there, and the other place," then he's going to be on the 53. And personally, I kind of want him to be on the 53 because I want him to be in those meetings. I want him to be listening to those game plans and basically watching guys do the job, because if he's on the practice squad, that's different. Those guys do not do the walkthrough on Thursdays. Okay, those guys are just there to be basically help the team from Monday through Wednesday. And usually when they win on Sunday, they don't practice on Monday. So then they're there usually only 2 days. They're not there for the walkthrough on Thursday, which is kind of important because that's when they install the game plan. So I don't know. I'd like to see him be on the 53. I realize that he's probably not a guy that you want out there because he's had a bad camp. There's no other way to say it.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up some other players here. Here's somebody that we were hoping would actually perform well, but he did not have a very good day today. Larnell Coleman at right tackle. He was disappointing, to say the least. Gave up a couple of sacks. Looked like he was getting beat off the edge by speed rushers. People were getting around him. I'm not really concerned yet because, again, we all have acknowledged that he's a seventh-round project no matter what. I didn't expect to see him light up his blocking assignments or anything like that he was just going to be some kind of superstar. But from what we had seen in training camp, it seemed like there was something there, and I still think there is, but today he kind of got exposed a little bit.
Footwork. It's all about footwork. He's able to use his hands well, but if his feet aren't moving off the line of scrimmage and he's not going back and trying to hold down his anchor, nothing's going to matter for him. He needs to be better with footwork. Look, he's a big guy and he's a big-bodied guy as well, so he's going to try to use his arms and his chest to beat NFL-level defenders. But in the NFL, you can't do that. You need to move with your body. You need to move with your legs. And so far, what I see from Coleman, he's not able to do that yet. I think that's also another reason why Miami has been trying to fill that right tackle spot with Eichenberg, with Greg Little. They try to make it work with Jermaine Illuminir. They try to make it work with Isaiah Wilson as well. But Coleman's going to be a year or 2 year project for him to actually get acclimated to the NFL level.
Right, and we knew that. I didn't expect him to suddenly – that's why I said I didn't expect him to light things up. I just wish that he might have held his ground a little better today.
Yeah, Larnell Coleman is one of those guys that, those guys get onto the NFL because they have the body type. They have the prototypical size, body type, arm length. Everything checks out. Then he just has to play good, right? He's had a good camp. Today was just a bad day. And I don't know, they're going to have to dig into the film. I didn't get to see too much of him. I was ball watching today. Okay. I was enjoying a football game when I came back from vacation. So I wasn't digging deep into offensive line play today. But Larnell Coleman, arrow up on him, I would say. He's a guy that if I had to bet if he's an NFL player or not, I would say he is, because he seems to translate that prototypical size better than most guys that you see in the league that are UDFAs or seventh-round picks. A lot of those guys, they get overwhelmed. They get into camp, they play against the 2s or the 3s, and they just don't look the part. They look like they don't belong there. He looks like he belongs. Is he ready to play 60 snaps, 70 snaps on a Sunday? Probably not. But most seven-round picks are not. So,
does he make the 53?
I think yes. I think he makes it.
So let's look at this Dolphins roster then. So we're obviously the starters are going to be Austin Jackson. That's 1. Then we have Solomon Kinley, supposedly at left guard. That's 2. He actually played a little bit today. I don't know how I felt about that, but anyway, Flores wants him to shed a few more pounds off. I don't know, get some more exercise. Center, Michael Dieter. Robert Hunt is the right guard, and then right tackle, presumably, once again, unfortunately, Jesse Davis. Liam Eichenberg will make this team. That's 6. And then you have who's next? I'm just trying to think of different names.
Well, the Dolphins made a trade for Greg Mance.
Greg Little.
He made the team. Greg Mance made the team. I think Greg Little made the team. I think Larnell Coleman made the team. That takes you to 8.
Leaves out Matt Skura.
So Matt Skura's 9, and they'll keep 9 offensive linemen. I think that's what they're thinking. Which means that, like, let's count it down, okay? Austin Jackson, Liam Eichenberg, Michael Dieter, Robert Hunt, Jesse Davis.
That's 5.
That's 5. Solomon McKinley, 6. Greg Little is 7. Larnell Coleman is 8. Matt Skura is 9. You know who that leaves out?
Greg Mance.
Rob
Jones.
Robert Jones. You're talking about there's 3 guys. Look, Adam Pankey keeps getting snaps, and they loved him from last year. I don't know why, but they did. Today he got a bunch of snaps. I don't know. He's just not a noticeable guy for me, Adam Pankey. But Robert Jones had a good game against Atlanta, and he's looked good in camp. So they have another decision to make in that 9th spot. So, now is there a guy there that, the entire league is just itching to wait to see him on the waiver wire to take him?
No.
Probably not. So that's where they'll keep a guy that they'll like, for next year maybe. And they'll pass him off on the practice squad without any problem. Maybe it's Robert Jones. Maybe it's Larnell Coleman. One of those 2.
I think, with the contract where Robert Jones has, I think he's paid a little bit more.
Yes, they did something very unusual for a player like that. They guaranteed part of his deal.
Yeah, and that leads me to believe that you could stash Coleman onto the practice squad, give him a chance to learn, and put Robert Jones into that action. With those double combos and those backside seals, Jones has been pretty good, even with his time back there at Middle Tennessee. I've been all over him ever since the draft process. I liked him. I mocked him to go in the 7th round to Miami. Fortunately, they picked him up as a UDFA as well. I think the Dolphins like Robert Jones. He seems to be good in the run game. Needs a little bit of help in pass protection as well. You're not going to see him start next season, but he's got something there. There's something about Robert Jones that this Dolphins organization likes, to give him that guaranteed contract, to give him that type of playing time as well. And he did great today. I think he did great today, and I'd bet Robert Jones to be on this final 53.
Yeah, and I heard somebody today say that maybe Matt Skura's on the bubble. I don't see how. I think Matt Skura has to be a lock on the roster because, yes, Mance can play a little bit of center. Skura's played center, but Skura can also play left guard, right guard. He's played all 3 for a pretty good running team in Baltimore.
Mance has history with George Godsey from Houston, and Mance can also play the interior line. So I guess it boils down to who did they, because I remember that we heard there were reports that Skura had the yips come back very briefly the other day. So I don't know if that's a concern, because he hasn't blocked like the guy we thought he was going to be. He hasn't even looked that good on that front. So,
well, I don't think they give him a fair shake. Like, I saw every single practice.
Okay.
I don't think he ever got a first team rep.
But shouldn't that mean that he should have been dominating against the second teamers?
I don't think he was bad. I thought he was okay, on the second team. I thought he had a really good game, the first game against the Bears. On second team, I thought he was really, really good in that game. But other than, Michael Dieter, I don't understand it, but they gave him the job. This was not a competition. It really wasn't.
All
they
right,
just handed him the job.
Then this is what I'm going to just ask you straight up then, Alf. If you were the GM of the Dolphins and you were the head coach of the Dolphins, would you have given Skura or Dieter the starting job? Straight up.
Neither one. I would have had them compete. I would have had them.
I know you would have had them compete, but based on what you have seen from the both of them, who looked better to you?
Well, Dieter played actually against number ones. He played ones, and he held his own and had some good moments, especially in that Atlanta game. So obviously Dieter. And there's something else to be said about Michael Dieter. Tua Tagovailoa loves him. Okay, they talk all the time. I saw it last year. They have a good rapport, and that matters, and it matters to coaches. So maybe even Tua had a say in that matter.
So maybe that has something to do with it. So what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to point something out here. Derval Quiroz Neto, he had himself a game today. It's like I'm honestly wondering if come next, because I'm pretty sure after next year the roster exemption is no longer a thing. He's either got to make the team or it's time for him to go bye-bye. So, but based on what I saw today, and based on what Chris Kaufman, CK Parrott on Twitter pointed it out, him and Robert Jones together, he did a pretty awesome job today. Like, he was blocking people with one hand, and then he was looking for more work with his other hand. Like, he's apparently big and strong enough to be able to take on two guys at once. That's the kind of guy that I would want in an NFL caliber guard. So I think after all this time, maybe by next year, the investment that the Dolphins have put into him, it might actually pay off finally.
Yeah, he mauls people. Could he be rostered this year? And could
swing
he be
tackle guard?
Yeah, and maybe he could be the sixth offensive lineman in unbalanced lines.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that he could do it. The question is, will the Dolphins be willing to do it when they still technically have an exemption and he can't be touched?
Mm-hmm.
When is Jesse Davis's contract up? Exactly.
Next year, I believe.
Let me take a look at that.
He could take over Jesse Davis's spot as that swing tackle, swing guard.
Not
tackle.
Not for me.
Strictly
no.
guard.
Yeah. Neto's. Yeah, he's strictly a guard because tackle. If you've seen his legs, like he's not nimble. Like those legs are built to move in a straight line.
Those are tree trunks.
People. Yeah, he moves.
He's an interior guy.
Legs.
I got you.
You know.
Heck, I wish we could have taught him how to snap the football. I wouldn't have minded him as a center. It's like just big old beast of a man right there in the middle. Like, no, you shall not pass.
Maybe Dieter sticks. You never know. Maybe he's really good this year.
All right. Just to clarify, Jesse Davis's contract ends officially in 2023. He's still under contract for next year.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So they could cut him at the end of next year because I'm pretty sure he has no money else coming to him, right? And as far as bonuses for 2023,
actually, his contract this year and next year are actually pretty much the same.
Okay.
So it's pretty much the same contract twice. The only difference is that he makes, let's try to look at it here, just slightly more in his base salary, like $25,000 more on his base salary. That's about it. Everything else is the same.
Okay.
But I mean, I wouldn't cut Jesse Davis. I would hope that because what we're getting for him is like, what is it? Like, let me look at it again. It's like $3 million for somebody who can play pretty much every position on the offensive line. Again, I don't want Jesse Davis as my starter. This is out of necessity that we're doing this. The ideal situation would be that Austin Jackson pans out, that Solomon Kinley pans out, that Robert Hunt and Lane Meichenberg pan out, and then Jesse Davis is just the emergency dude who comes in regardless of who ends up getting hurt.
Well, I think that the Dolphins can actually claim that they like what they have on the offensive line once Jesse Davis is that sixth guy.
Yeah,
you know, the guy that comes in for any of like 3 or 4 positions, you know. But until then, you know, I think that it's just average. It's, you know, he's an average NFL lineman, which, you know, it's not bad if you have stars all around him, but they have developing players all around him. So I don't know. Well, it's a wait and see. But I think that him having the job at right tackle, I think it says more about what's on the on the schedule coming up than, you know, his actual talent or what he actually deserves at this moment. Because I think eventually, and I think it will happen this year, Liam Eichenberg is going to be the right tackle. He just is.
I suspect it will happen eventually, yeah. One of the comments mentioned one person who was actually technically on my players to watch list. I actually had Jason Strobridge, but I did mention his competition. It's from Young Lion 04, who's asking, did Jonathan Ledbetter do enough to make the 53-man roster? I mean, I saw him make one play. I saw Jason Strobridge make 2 plays. So it's like, just at that point, no, I don't think he did.
I thought
he got pushed around a couple times in the run game.
Strobridge is one of these guys that has every good trait that you want on a 5 tech, except the most important trait of them all, which is playing good football. He he's the guy. He's the guy that just, he just disappears, and he's just like you could tell everything that everybody said about him in the draft process it's coming to fruition right now. He's a guy that just, he's not consistent in his technique, and his good traits are his strong hands. Okay, he has really strong hands. He can hold the edge. The thing is, you sometimes don't see it. Sometimes you see him try to run himself into a double, or run himself into the guard for no apparent reason, and there's no way that the scheme is designed to work that way. Okay, so who sticks out of those fringe front seven players? I think the guy to look at is Tyson Render. I think that's a guy. That's the guy that you look at and you say, okay, that's the fringe guy that gets onto the roster. But Ledbetter, man, flip a coin on him. Strobridge, I think, is in serious trouble.
Wow, that's a strong statement then. All right, so let's take a look at that defensive line then, because we haven't done that yet.
What about wait, Louis? Sorry to interrupt. Shaquem Griffin. I know we talked a little bit about him off camera as well, but do you think Shaquem Griffin? I mean, even though he did play today, is he one of those fringe roster guys? Or do you think there's enough depth for outside linebacker?
I'm going to throw this.
I think he makes the team. I think he makes the team because there's no way that these coaches wasted all of those snaps and all of those reps all camp long. And I'm talking about from day 1 to day 19, okay? He was everywhere. He played every single rep and snap on the first team special teams, okay? So he's played everywhere. He played on the kickoff. He played on the kickoff return. He played on the punt. He played on the punt return. He played everywhere on special teams. So this is a guy that they obviously picked him out, and he also got a lot of second team reps. They picked him out and they said, maybe Duke Riley is the one that's in trouble around here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think Duke Riley's in trouble.
Because that's weird, because a lot when they signed Duke Riley, very, very smart people that I respect told me straight up, okay, he replaces Kyle Grugier-Hill, and he's actually better because he's going to end up becoming the Dolphins special teams captain. And I was like, really? He's that good? And I'm like, yes. That's what I was told. I was told he was really, really good special teams player.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it this camp, and I didn't see it in the preseason. Now, his tape in the NFL says he is, but he hasn't had a good camp. And his second team work has not been good, period. So, I don't know. I think he's the one that's in a little bit of trouble.
You know what? And this is just me speculating. I don't have any kind of logic behind it other than just me being curious. I look at Clayton Fitzgerald's measurables. He's from the official Dolphins roster, right? Clayton Fitzgerald, or however you say it, he's listed as 6'1", 205 pounds, right? And then I'm going all the way back up here, and I have Shaquem Griffin, 6 feet, 227. Griffin's a fast dude. And honestly, I think he might even be faster than Fitzgerald.
He played track.
So why are we? And he's bigger overall than him. He's only 1 inch shorter, and he's faster. Why not just try to make Griffin into a safety like Fitzgerald at that point?
I don't think that you can use him.
No.
I think his skill set is better used as that off-ball linebacker, as a scrape.
He's a pass rusher, Lewis. He's a primary pass rushing guy.
And
I don't deny that.
A little bit in runs, but not as.
And that's the great thing about Shaquem Griffin is that he's also versatile. Like I saw him in camp, he was playing the off-ball linebacker, he was playing the scrape, and then he also played the buck. So he's playing every single linebacker position as well. So this is a guy that's playing everywhere.
Right.
So I think he makes the team.
And that's why I was thinking to myself, it's like, if we have somebody who can do all these things, I don't see why we don't try to see if maybe we can move on from Fitzgerald, because I it's not that he's bad. It's just that I'm trying to see how can we squeeze in the most talent that we can play with, because Fitzgerald's good at special teams. He's really good at special teams, but so is Shaquem Griffin. I'm just trying to figure out how we can squeeze in as much actual talent with upside as we possibly can right now.
Well, remember, the team is going to have 4 special teams specialists. You need 4. because you only carry 53 guys, right? And then, on game day, not all of them are active, right?
Well, Mac Hollins is going to be one.
Well, that you need 4 no matter
Right.
what, because if you just count the numbers on the team, there's not enough guys. You're going to have some starters that are going to play special teams because you just don't have enough guys. So then that's why Noah Benogany could make the team, because you need extra guys to play special teams to avoid using starters. Do you want Jerome Baker to play some snaps on a punt return team? No, I don't. But he has before, and the reason he has before is because they lacked some of those special teams guys. So, I don't know. Clayton Fitzgerald, can they replace him? Of course they can. As a special teams player, he's really, really good. It's just that people have the bad taste in the mouth with Tyreek Hill running right past him when he was single high on that one play. Guess what? Tyreek Hill does that to everybody and to a lot better players than Clayton Fitzgerald.
All right. So I want to go down the defensive line because that's something we didn't get. So we basically nixed the Jonathan Ledbetter thing. Alf said flip a coin. I personally don't think he makes it. So Jason Strobridge apparently in trouble. So let's just go down this list here of guys who we know are going to make it. So Emmanuel Ogbah, that's 1. Adam Butler is 2. Raekwon Davis is 3. I believe John Jenkins will make it just because we need a backup for number 5, Raekwon Davis.
You need another run stuffer like him.
So, and then we have Zach Sealer, Christian Wilkins at 7. So 1 more defensive end.
Yeah, I think that's it, and it's probably going to be Render. And the reason it'll be Tyson Render is because he's versatile. He could also play some buck. So they love that type of stuff. So, I think that's it right there. Like you just mentioned it. Another guy who always plays well. I like the way that this guy plays, but he ends up getting lost in the wash because sometimes you watch him and then he disappears for very long periods of time, is Benito Jones. And I think that the day that they signed John Jenkins, I said, okay, that's it. Like they gave up on the Benito Jones experiment. And they're going to give him a run this year to try to unseat John Jenkins. I don't think he did. And the reason they have John Jenkins is because they need a backup 0, so then they could do different things with Raekwon Davis. So, it makes too much sense. Yeah, Benito Jones is a decent player that I think is getting cut.
I feel bad for Benito Jones because he had a sack on
that was a terrible call.
He had terrible
But those officials today were absolutely, completely incompetent.
They were back in midseason form. That's what I said. They're back in.
Did you see them? Did you see them? They actually blew a spot for measurement for first down, and you could see Brian Flores tell them that's not a first down. There's a very easy thing that they do in the NFL for you to figure out what a first down is. We all know that a first down is 10 yards, right? If you spot the ball at the 14, where does the ball have to get a first down?
If my math is right, the 4.
Okay, if you spot the ball at the 5 and then you point first down, what did you just do? They did that today. And Brian Flores told him the spot was at the 14. You could see him telling him 14 to the 5. That's 9. It's not enough.
Okay, so we've degraded to the point where referees don't even know basic arithmetic. Got it. Okay.
They were bad. And by the way, at the end, I really – not many things upset me about referees. Sometimes they're just dumb and they're just bad, okay? And they're human, all right? And they're asked to do an impossible job, okay? An impossible job.
Most of the time, they're former or current lawyers. They should know the rules inside and out, though.
Yeah, but, today when Reed Sinet got blasted and they didn't throw a flag on it, but they throw a flag on Benito Jones.
Bullshit call, man.
That was a horrific call.
Bullshit no call.
Okay, and that's the type of call that they have to call, that the head of officials should call in that crew and say, why wasn't this roughing the passer, but this was? And you know why it wasn't?
Oh, he didn't put his full weight on the quarterback. That's what it was, Alf. Come on. You should know the rules.
They were trying to get out of there. Okay, the reason they didn't call it because they were trying to get out of there. They were like, this game doesn't matter. We want to get out of here. Okay, and they officiated the game that way, and that's not right. And that's not right for guys that are actually getting hit and putting their health on the line, to have officials that just don't care And that's what it looked like today. They looked like they didn't care. You're muted.
I am. I'm sorry, because I have a little mute button on my thing here. It used to glow in the dark, but now it doesn't, and so I'm never sure if I'm muted or not. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and quickly address something here, because somebody in the comments, I think they're trolling. I think they're a fan of another team. Full disclosure, how will the Dolphins beat the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Chargers? Maybe they can beat the Jets or Denver. Okay, just to clarify something here, two of those teams that you mentioned, the Dolphins already beat them last year. They beat the Chargers. Go look at how bad Justin Herbert was that game. You remember him? Rookie of the year, Mr. Justin Herbert, who's supposedly the next Brett Favre in the making. I don't know. How about the Raiders? I know it was a miracle, but they still did beat them last year. And I think that the Dolphins now are a lot better than they were last year. So there you go. That answers that question. As for the Chiefs, it's a crapshoot no matter what with them.
Well, the Chiefs needed to convert a 4th and 1 to hold on to that game. And they were terrified. Yes, they were terrified of giving the ball back to Tua Tagovailoa. If not, he was going to drive it right down the field and beat them.
If there was more time, he would have scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
Seriously. If there was more time, he would have scored a touchdown.
People forget that Tua was driving the length of the field in 30 seconds, okay, to get field goals, to try to keep the score close. Okay, so no, whoever that is, Mischief Mike Seaver.
He's a Pats fan, apparently. Okay, so that explains a lot.
All right, get lost.
We'll talk to you next week. No, 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now, the Dolphins
get a week vacation
breaks off of that Patriot team, and if they start Mac Jones, it could get ugly. So
you're not impressed by Mac Jones?
No, not against no rookie quarterback is going to beat this Dolphins defense. It's just not going to happen. Not this year.
I mean, I would be scared to death if I was Mac Jones, because Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Nick Needham hanging around somewhere there, Justin Coleman, and then, of course, you have
Jalen Phillips coming at you at full speed.
Jalen Phillips
some third downs, man.
I mean, he made one really good wow moment. He didn't actually hit the quarterback. I mean, he got close, but he threw it away. The quarterback threw it away in time. But, I mean, he was fast. It was not like he was... It's not like he wasn't there. It's just that he didn't get there fast enough.
He didn't bite on the fake. That's what it was. He's already a pure pass rusher. He doesn't need those pass rush reps. He needs to learn how to set the edge a little bit better against the run. That's what the Dolphins are trying to get acclimated for him in the season. And he needs to be better in coverage, too. That's not his strong suit. He needs to learn
putting him back in coverage, too.
Yeah, this Pats fan evidently doesn't watch too much football. He says, I am asking, who are your wide receivers? Dolphins probably have one of the deepest wide receiver cores in the league, buddy. Okay? You know what? The internet.
Who are we picking?
I'm pretty certain you have the internet because you're talking to us, right? Go on the internet, go on Google, and just type in Dolphins depth chart. And then look at their wide receivers and then ask yourself if they're good or not. And then ask yourself this question. You would take 5 of them before you take the first Patriot on your team. Okay?
Alf has no patience for Patriot fans today.
No,
none.
No, I don't.
He's like, I'm just got back on vacation.
They get a little press. They get a little press, and then they lose their minds.
I mean, they're used to having Tom Brady always taking all the headlines and stuff. So now they're looking around for something. All right, so we're almost at the hour mark. I am going to go ahead and bring this one thing up. They didn't bring it up during the pregame show because they basically refused to, but I will go there just to end the show really quick. Brian Flores was asked about this in his post-game press conference. I don't know why this is the time to do it, but I guess he wouldn't have had a time to do it earlier, so I guess now is the time. They were asked about, once again, the Deshaun Watson rumors, and Brian Flores' answer was simply that he's very confident in Tua, that he's done a lot of good things this spring, this offseason, and he played well last week. He did not come out and officially say once and for all, no, we are not interested in Deshaun Watson, which is apparently the only answer that Flores can give that'll shut this whole thing down. Saying that they're confident in Tua is not good enough, I guess. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Well, I think this is it's a little bit subversive, right? Like there's a faction in the Dolphins front office that wasn't sold on Tua going into the draft process, and they're not sold on him now. Okay, and they're just going to, I guess, massage the situation. And who knows if they're leaking? If they're leaking and Chris Greer and Brian Flores find out about it, some people could get fired over this. But did they or would they explore Deshaun Watson? If they didn't, they wouldn't be doing their job. It's a top 5 quarterback who's available. You have to at least, touch on the situation with what's happening in with the Texans. By the way, this Pats fan, I can see the Dolphins getting 9 wins with Watson. They got 10 last year with Fitzpatrick and Tua, you dumbass. Ban that guy. Can you ban him?
Let me just
yeah, go away, clown.
Okay.
Earlier in the thing, he said that the Dolphins will win 4 or 5 games. That guy's trolling. Get lost.
All right.
Okay.
Banned. He's done.
Okay. So what's happening is this. Maybe that's resurfacing. Have they talked to the Texans? Of course they would. And the reports.
Other teams will be talking to the Texans too, Alf.
Yeah. So, and Charles Robinson said the Dolphins balked at the asking price. Of course they would, because I believe
first round in 2 seconds. You crazy? You crazy?
The Texans are going to want a haul for him. Okay, they're going to want a do-over on that Larry Tunsil trade. Okay, because he's worth it. He's a top 5 quarterback.
Yes, who might go to jail. That's the problem.
Being investigated by the FBI.
Yeah, that's
22,
the thing too.
I mean,
yeah, I don't like saying where there's smoke, there's fire, concerning these things. But let's face it. He has some type of proclivity that borders on criminality. Okay, simple as that. And if it's deemed criminal, he's going to go to jail. So,
I'm of the opinion that. Let's talk about it. Barry Jackson came out today that said, and I know 5 Reasons Sports official account tweeted, Ethan also tweeted out that, if the Dolphins want to end it right now, they can, just like how the Heat did with James Harden. But the Dolphins won't. They're not the same old Dolphins management team. They're not the same old Dolphins just trying to give out what they're going to do. I honestly think it's just a leverage play to stroke another team into making
don't
a
use
dumb
that
decision. What?
Don't use that word.
It's a leverage play. They're just trying to get some other team to bite. Obviously, they're interested. Who wouldn't be interested in Deshaun Watson? Chris Greer is always listening and wants to know what assets are being given up so he knows the market value. For all we know, the Patriots could be in play too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, any team that isn't sure about their quarterback would be in play for him if everything was clear. Cap for Life is suggesting, what if Ross knows the lawyer? Okay, even still, man, so what? The lawyer can say whatever
he's
wants.
He's throwing out hypotheticals, man, which we don't.
There's the sweetheart scenario, right? Which is they trade for Deshaun Watson. They don't give up too much. Okay.
Do they keep Tua?
Yes. And you play Tua this year, the entire year, and Deshaun Watson, you redshirt him for the year. And at the end of the year, you decide on the quarterback. Did you like what you saw from Tua Tagovailoa? Good. Guess what? Deshaun Watson's still going to be valuable in a year. And especially if he clears his legal issues, then you just sell him to the highest bidder, period. If Tua's bad, then you play Deshaun Watson and you sell Tua.
Can I ask you something else? Can I ask you something? That no trade clause that's making it that Watson gets to choose where he goes.
Yeah.
If he gets traded to the Dolphins, did he waive it completely and they can choose where he goes? Or does Watson get to say, oh, no, I want to stay here, period?
Well, I believe that the no trade clause is written in stone with the Texans, not with the Dolphins.
So as soon as he gets traded, he doesn't stick.
It doesn't travel with the player. I don't believe. I think we could talk to an agent and they could clear it up because it is a gray area that I'm not sure of.
Because that can make a big deal. Because if the idea is to sell Watson to the highest bidder, if that no trade clause follows him to Miami, we can't trade him wherever we want to. He's going to say, no, I want to stay here. So you better find a way to trade Tua.
I think what I'm understanding is that if you waive that trade clause, whatever it is for that one contract, I'm of the assumption that that trade clause does not apply. Once you take it off as a waiver, it's taken off. You modify your contract, and that contract stays with you to whatever other team. Now, Again, you'd have to ask an agent, ask a lawyer, whatever it is. But I'm of the assumption that that's what it is. But if we're talking about specifically football ways, Deshaun Watson has already proven he knows he can lead a team. He can win in the playoffs. We have not seen Tua in the playoffs yet. We haven't really seen Tua actually lead his team to, a nitty-gritty type of win. And I think that's what all the cloud is around. Because if you look at the mechanics, if you look at throwing motion, if you look at how both of these players play, they're similar in playing styles. One is proven, one isn't improving. That's what I think of this situation.
Yeah, as far as I would disagree with one thing that you did say. Tua, that game against the Arizona Cardinals was a tour de force.
Yeah.
That was a game.
That's one small sample size,
and that was still him at his weakest.
Watson's, but that was a great game by Tua. We saw he can be that guy,
and that was him at his weakest. That's the thing we have to remember. This is Tua's real rookie season. That's why I don't want to send him packing for a dude who, admittedly, yes, if you're going to compare them just in a vacuum with nothing else except the player on a pedestal, of course Deshaun Watson is better. But everything that the Dolphins have done, all the actions, words don't mean anything with Brian Flores. Whatever Brian Flores says, it doesn't mean nothing. It means jack. Brian Flores has basically made it so that he has grabbed Tua's old quarterbacks coach to call in the plays. He's not choosing the plays. He's communicating the plays to Tua. So whatever, I don't understand why they're doing all that, but that's fine. They made the offense from the ground up for Tua. He's picked players to be his weapons based on what Tua does well. They picked Tua's old teammate from Alabama. So everything that we have seen so far is based around making it so that Tua is the franchise quarterback. And now we're talking about literally after the preseason is over, just 2 weeks before the regular season actually begins, we're going to suddenly decide that we're wanting to give up on the whole plan, just abandon ship because of one dude. You're basically starting over again. I get that Watson is that much better, but now you have to make a whole new game plan. It doesn't make any sense to me right now.
Yeah, Cap for Life. He writes, Alf, do you believe Salguero or Barry Jackson? Your thoughts, fam? And he puts the microphone emoji. Yeah, those guys have cultivated sources for a very, very long time. If they write it, they've corroborated it, especially if it's from the Herald. They need two sources. So, yes, I absolutely believe him. I will say another thing, okay? You know what's the evidence that Tua is the man right now? He was drafted. Who drafted him? Is Chris Grier going to all of a sudden say, you know what? I wasn't responsible for it. Well, yes, you are. You're the GM. Do you think that Brian Flores in year 2 of his first head coaching job is going to allow himself to be saddled with a quarterback that he doesn't want? Of course not. So I think Tua was Chris Grier's and Brian Flores' guy. And I think he's going to get every single opportunity to be that guy. And if he's good this year, I think all of this goes away.
And if you want to really pick apart what Flores said in his press conference, please don't. If you really thought
that's what I just said. Words don't mean anything with Flores.
If you thought he was going to say anything other than that, you're a fool. You're playing yourself. It doesn't matter what we want to hear. It doesn't matter what we want to hear.
There's one thing. The only thing that makes this comment viable is the idea that when Xavier Howard was being circulated as potentially being a target, Flores came out straight up and said, we do not want to trade Xavier Howard.
It's because he's on the team. It's because he's currently on the team right now. Xavier Howard was on the team.
So why doesn't he just say that Tua is going to be our starter in week 1 and that's the end of it?
I mean, we already know Tua is the starter for week 1 already.
But I get that. I get that, but he did this thing where it's the coach speak. If Flores had said it this way, if he had structured the sentence differently, if he had said like Tua Tagovailoa is our starting quarterback for 2021, end of discussion, then that could have at least like put it to bed. It's like we're not interested in anybody else. We want this guy. If he had said it that way, it's the same thing. I don't want to talk about this guy. This is our guy, and I'm not interested in anyone else. Instead, he says that all of our discussions are internal. Yeah, that's a very Belichickian thing to say.
That's his way of talking.
I get that. I get that. And I said that. Words don't mean anything with Brian Flores. But again, with Xavier Howard, he said straight up, we're not trading him. With Tua, all you had to do is say is, I don't care about Deshaun Watson. This is our guy.
Yeah, Flores likes to treat the media like mushrooms, you know. Feed them shit and keep them in the dark.
Alrighty. So, any final thoughts? Because we're already past the hour mark. I know we try to keep it under an hour. Is there anything else that we need to go over before we call it a show?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything. And we can promote on the 31st at 4 o'clock. They are cutting down the team from 80 to 53, right? We will have a show on 5 Reasons Sports on the YouTube channel. As soon as the cuts come in, as soon as we know who's cut, we will be on the air with the Extra Yard guys.
All right.
I'll be there too. My second time being on there, I'll be there too.
I will not be on there. I'm at work. So unfortunately, I'll just try to write things up as we go along. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining us. And once again, big thank you to Thrive Fantasy for sponsoring today's show. If you want to go ahead and get yourself started with the Thrive Fantasy world, all you have to do is just click the link in the description and you'll be able to take off right there. Or you can use the promo code 5FINS. They'll match up to $100 on your deposit. Choose 10 of the most well-known players, and hopefully you end up winning the contest and making some big dough. And also, we'll just go ahead and keep it going here. There's still more football to watch, ladies and gentlemen, so stay tuned and we'll see you in, I guess, what is it, 2 days? We'll see you in 2 days here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, where Alfredo and the Extra Yard guys and Hussam, who's technically banned from Extra Yard because he dared to say Jakeem Grant positivity. Alfredo is like the Godfather, so he can go wherever he wants. He can do whatever he wants. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you all next time.